Well, good morning. Hope everyone is having themselves a lovely, lovely Thursday. One more day, and it's the fucking weekend, boys. It looks like today's going to be a special little day for me because we got not one, but two morning Warhammer Schizo history streams. That's right. We have two. The first one is the one we're going to be going over right now. That's going to be the real reason the South lost the Civil War. Lost this war. Scots, Irish, and Confederate Jews. So all that shit you learned in history class, all the Civil War documentaries you might have watched, all the books on the Civil War you might have read, all that shit you know about the Civil War, it's all fucking fake. Warhammer's got the truth on why the South lost the fucking war. It's totally not like the North had a larger population than them and was more industrialized than the fucking South. Oh, no. It was because of the Jews. It's the Jews' fault the South lost the war because, if we just remove the Jews from the equation, the South would have definitely won the war. Definitely would have won the fucking war and not, got its ass kicked by the Union. But anyway, let's get into the Schizo stream, shall we?
I'm still a hard man. Let's go.
Let's go.
All right, so this is the real reason why Dixie lost the Civil War to the North. This is the real reason. Okay. Was it material and numerical superiority? The answer is no.
Okay, you heard that now. The real reason why the South lost the Civil War was not because the South had a smaller population compared to the Union, and it wasn't because of the fact that the South wasn't as industrialist as the fucking Union. Oh, no. Warhammer's about to drop a massive fucking truth bomb on us.
The real reason why the southern states lost in the war between the states, the War of Northern Aggression, or whatever you want to call it, is because the Union Army was full of a bunch of blonde-haired and blue-eyed Nordic Germans.
Okay. Okay, you heard Warhammer here. The reason why the South lost the Civil War wasn't because the South had a small population compared to the Union, and it wasn't because the fucking South wasn't as industrialized as the Union. The real reason why they fucking lost the war is because the Union was comprised of blonde hair, blue-eyed Aryan supermen. And that's why the South lost, because the Union had a fucking battalions upon battalions upon battalions of blonde hair, blue-eyed Aryan supermen.
216,000 something Nordic Germans or Nordics fought in the Union Army.
Okay.
And the South had a bunch of Jews that fought in the Confederate Army.
Okay. So that's why the South lost the war. It's because they had a bunch of Jews fighting in their armies. Okay, granted, the Union also had some fucking Jews in the army too. They also had Jews that fought for the Union. In fact, I once heard a story on how in the beginning stages of the war, how they would have a hard time accommodating the religious services of the Jews in the army. Like, they didn't know how much, sacramental wine they were supposed to give the Jews because, everyone involved in like the Union religious core was like comprised of like fucking Christians, so they had a hard time trying to figure out how much wine they should give the Jews during their little Jewish services, and some of the Jews got fucking plastered there.
And of course, the Jews are a bunch of backstabbers.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have a bunch of Jews, like 3,000 Confederate Jews in the fighting in...
That's a very, very, very small fucking number, buddy. 3,000 fucking Jews fighting in the Confederacy it doesn't mean shit. 3,000 fucking Jews in the entirety of the Confederate Army does not mean shit. I don't know how they're responsible for the South losing the war, but apparently 3,000 Jews fighting for the Confederacy somehow managed to destroy the Confederacy there.
The Army of Northern Virginia versus a bunch of Nordic Germans and Nordic Scandinavians in the Union Army. Of course you're going to lose.
Yeah, what, 3,000 fucking Jews going up against, what did he say, like 230,000 Nordic Aryan supermen? Of course they're gonna fucking lose. It's like a fucking ant versus, you know, my shoe. I'm going to win every single fucking time there.
From a racial perspective, of course you're going to lose. Another factor, too, is the inferiority of Celts to Nordics, or just the racial inferiority of Celts and Celtic Britons to the Nordic Anglo-Saxons and the Nordic Germans.
I'm kind of curious what sort of bizarre, weird pseudoscience Warhammer has been reading up on recently, for him to come to this conclusion that the Nordic man is superior than the Celtic man. I think it's time to give Warhammer some new books. Maybe books on simple things like how to wipe your ass, how to tie your shoes, how not to act like a jackass on the internet.
Most of the South is Celtic, at least Appalachia and the uplands. And the Scotch-Irish, or the Ulster Scots, who were a product of British imperialism in Ireland and a product of Protestant imperialism against the Gaelic Irish people, the Ulster Scots are terrible fighters. Like, the Ulster Scots did not win the American Revolution.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say if we put Warhammer up against an Ulster Scot MMA fighter, Warhammer's going to get his head caved in. Just saying.
In fact, a lot of them fought for the king. So, okay. The Ulster Scots are the worst pieces of scum that you can... Again,
you know, put Warhammer up against an Ulster Scot MMA fighter, Warhammer's going to get his head caved in. You know, scratch that. Maybe just a regular average Ulster Scot male. Put that dude up against fucking Warhammer, and yes, Warhammer will get his head caved in. I mean, remember, this is the same guy that gets bullied by children in pickup trucks. Okay, Warhammer gets bullied by little children in pickup trucks. A regular average Ulster Scot would mop the floor with Warhammer there. But no, they're bad fucking fighters. I dare you to say that to one of their fucking faces, John. I fucking dare you.
Ever want to bring to your side to fight? Most of the Ulster Scots are kind of still more focused on clannish warfare or clan warfare instead of like being put into organized military columns and units. And there's actually this documentary about Scotch, Irish, and Appalachian rugged individualism and how that played a huge factor in why the Confederacy lost the Civil War to the Union. So when you have a bunch of these clannish, primitive, retarded, inbred Scotch-Irish hicks.
So is Warhammer a Scotch-Irish hick? Because he's definitely retarded, and it honestly wouldn't surprise me if it turns out he's also inbred as well.
And like 3,000 money-grubbing Confederate Jews in your army fighting on your side.
3,000 fucking Jews fighting for the Confederacy didn't do shit. 3,000 fucking Jews isn't a fucking game changer, okay? They could probably get wiped out in like one single battle. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if they did get wiped out during one single battle during the entirety of the Civil War.
And you're fighting against a highly disciplined, very well drilled, and very well ordered Nordic German, blonde-haired, blue-eyed.
You know, there were also Italians fighting for the Union during the Civil War, right? You know, some of the boys from the Mediterranean. You know, there was more than just the fucking Germanic, Nordic, Aryan supermen fighting for the Union. There were a couple of fucking Italians. There was an Italian battalion. I think I heard somewhere once there were even an Asian guy fought for the Union during the Civil War. I think it was Chinese. A Chinese guy fought for the Union during the Civil War there. So the Union just wasn't primarily comprised of the Aryan super race there, little buddy.
Battalions of Germans and Swedes and Norwegians and Danes, of course you're going to fucking lose. Like, actually, the Anglos in the Confederate Army were probably the most racially fit of the entire Confederacy.
What does it even mean to be racially fit? What does it even mean to be racially fit? Could someone please explain this to me? This physical fitness, sure, but what the fuck is racially fit?
Like the Anglo-Saxon stock and the Norman Cavalier stock of the South were by far the best bred of the entire Confederacy. The disorderly and misconductive Scotch-Irish were the reason why the Confederacy lost.
Really, that's the real reason why they lost the Civil War, and not because they had a small population compared to the Union, and they weren't as industrialized as the fucking Union. Okay, things were so bad for the fucking South, they literally had to make coffee off of the peels of sweet potatoes. The fucking agrarian economy that was the South at the time during the war had to make coffee via using sweet potato peels instead of actual coffee beans, because, well, the Union Navy was also kind of blocking their ports there.
Because the Scotch-Irish are actually kind of Spanish or Iberian racially.
What?
There's this evidence of how the Celts in Britain descend from Spanish sailors in the Mesolithic, or like the early Neolithic period. And these people, of whom the Scotch-Irish descend from, they were actually wiped out in the Bronze Age by these Yamnaya peoples,
What?
superior Yamnaya peoples that later created the Indo-European nations, and then by the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Anglo-Saxons and Vikings that replaced them in the UK.
Okay, you do realize that not every single fucking Viking had blonde hair and blue eyes, right? You know that, right? Right? I hope he does.
So, of course, Anglos are highly materialistic and individualistic as well. But the thing about the Anglos is at least they're smart about their individualism, and they're very business-oriented, just like the Jews. So the selfish individual motives of the Anglo-Saxons and the extremely rugged, individualistic, hillbilly kind of inbred Scotch-Irish that made up the majority of the Confederate Army, as well as the 3,500-something Jews that fought in the Confederacy.
Oh, now it's 3,500. It's not 3,000. We're adding an extra 500 Jews into the mix. Oh, okay.
Including the fact that Benjamin Freedman was the Secretary of State of the Confederacy, the first Jew to hold a...
When this shit started and Warhammer was running around burning his little flags and screaming how Dixie is superior, someone had actually mentioned in my comments section, I can't tell if it was the Sector Defector or not, but anyway, someone had asked me, I hope Warhammer doesn't find out that the Confederacy's Secretary of State was a Jew, and I had said, the minute Warhammer finds out about this shit, he's going to have a mental breakdown. I said this a couple months ago, thinking that we would never get this stream, but it looks like we're finally getting it, and it's happening today.
Government position that high up in American history. He was very close to Jefferson Davis. That was another factor why the Confederacy lost. When you take some...
Okay, so a Jewish man becoming the Secretary of State of the Confederacy is just one of the reasons why the South lost the war. Sounds like a fucking cope if you ask me.
Thing like that, and you pitch it up against a highly drilled, highly disciplined, organized bunch of Germans who made up 1/4 of the Union Army, and Irishmen who made up also another 1/4 of the Union Army, as well as the fact that
I would like to see the citations. I would like to actually see the evidence that you have that 3,500 Jewish people served in the Confederacy, and a large majority of the people who fought for the Union were blonde-hair, blue-eyed Aryan supermen. Citation fucking needed, please.
200,000 something Southern dissenters, Southern Unionists fought on the side of the Union Army, as well as the freed blacks. That's another reason why the Union Army won.
Yes, because the Union had more manpower than the fucking Confederacy. Wow! Amazing! If you have more troops than your enemy, and you have a better industrial home front than your enemy, you're gonna win a fucking war. Wow!
It's because there was a bunch of Jews on the side that fought in the Confederate Army.
3,000 fucking Confederate Jews served in the war. That is a very, very, very small number. 3,000 Jews fighting for the South didn't do shit. Except make a couple of mentally unhinged white nationalists like you angry. That's all. 3,000 Jews didn't do shit except make people like you and Ghosted Nicolo shit your pants and throw a tard fit.
Like the Confederate government was completely infiltrated by Jews.
There was only one man that was a fucking Jew that was a part of Jefferson Davis's cabinet. One man. The president wasn't a Jew. The vice president wasn't a Jew. Everyone else involved in the fucking Confederacy wasn't a Jew except for that one man who was the Secretary of State. That's it. Oh, no. The fucking Jews infiltrated the Confederacy to tear it down from the inside out. Which, not gonna lie, I would actually love for someone to make a movie about it, and I would fucking watch that shit. I would love to watch a movie about a group of Jews infiltrating the Confederacy and working together to tear it down from the inside. I would love to watch that movie.
And Scotch-Irish are a bunch of fucking inbred retards.
Again, I dare you to say that to one of these Scotch-Irishmen. IRL. And just see what happens, mister. I get bullied by children in fucking pickup trucks. Just do that shit. Call one of them an inbred hick and see what happens. I dare you.
They're not going to fight like superior Nordics. So yeah, that's my perspective on it, dude. But anyways, yeah, are you fucking Zoom?
What?
But anyways, yeah, those were my thoughts. The Anglo-Saxon and the German are of superior stock to the Celts. And that's my thoughts about it. Anyways, you have a good day.
Holy fuck. That was a trip. Well, we have one more stream to go over, and I'm going to save that for later on because, I got some shit to do today. I'm a very busy bee. Thursdays is going forward for me. I'm going to be a busy little bee. But, before this day ends, I will get into Warhammer's other stream where he talks about World War II. So you know that's gonna be a fucking trip. But until then, I hope everyone has a good Thursday, and I will catch you in the next video.